This video is sponsored by OneFootball. OneFootball's app makes it easy to keep up to date with transfer news, scores and stats all in the one place. To download the OneFootball app, click the link in the description. Welcome to Toffee TV. I am joined by John Blaine. Just ahead of, we're moving into what a lot of fans find the most exciting time of the season. The transfer window's almost upon us again.
When does it open? June the 1st, is it?
June the 1st, but obviously now the links are coming thick and fast every day. We've seen the Echo have done something actually today saying Everton want to move 20 players out and have targeted.
Have they named them?
They've used some names. So they obviously led with the likes of Ashley Williams, but he's out of contract anyway.
Yeah, he's going to fall off.
Yeah, he's going to drop off. But they've said that the Everton have targeted bringing in at least 6 new players, but it's thought to be more. I don't think it'll be.
Who wrote the article?
Phil Kirkbride.
I've not seen it.
Yeah.
Phil, I'll give you a shout, mate.
Yeah, so there you go. So, ahead of that, obviously, Marcel Brand spoke at the London Innovative thing the other week about his targets are all sorted and blah, blah, blah. And we're seeing more and more of this, and obviously the obvious questions to Marco Silva now at every press conference is, who you're after, you've been linked with him, what's happening with this player, blah, blah, blah. So what I wanted to ask you from a business perspective, and just as a fan who goes home and away anyway, is what do you think the possible obstructions are in Marcel Brand's being able to implement a plan, I suppose, the next stage of his program or his business his project, whichever way you look at it, John.
Program, I would imagine.
Yeah, the next stage of that, which is obviously just from someone who's not looking at the business side all the time, is reducing our wage bill and getting players off the squad to enable us to bring in the aforementioned targets.
Did you listen to the podcast we discussed this on?
I do listen to your podcast. It's one of the very
because we covered this a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah, but I want to sit here with you and look at you. Just your voice. I want to hear.
Well, clearly, you say, is it a program or is it what is it?
Yeah.
And what we were talking about clearly is because he sits on the board now, doesn't he? So we can say, well, he is, as director of football, he's the guy accountable for the playing side. So he's a bit like the chief exec of the playing side, isn't he, I suppose, if you look at it that way. And so clearly one of the major challenges he always faces is maintaining some sort of harmony within the squad, working with the manager about how are we going to play, what kind of players do we need, and so on. So we'll have a core, won't we, of players who, and I guess the core would be the players that the manager wants and are under contract for 2 years or more, say. Ideally a bit longer, I suppose. And that's his core. And then you'll have people around the edges who the manager wants, who are closer to the end of contract than that. And they must have to start doing that work around, do we offer them a new contract, do we try and extend it, whatever. And then there's the players the manager doesn't want. And that's the challenge, whether they're close to end the contract or not. If he doesn't want them, he doesn't want them, does he? If they fall off, like you say, in Ashley Williams, Jags, Baines, they're all in that, well, you just let them go. You don't have to do anything. The contract ends and they've gone, so to speak. Your question was obstruction, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
what's going to stop him? Well, let's just think what he has to do. He has to, assuming when you say he publicly speaks, which is vanilla responses to questions anyway, we've sat down, we've decided who our targets are and those sorts of things. I guess what the first level is to say, well, the target is we need a right back. We need a centre forward. We need a whatever. I personally struggle, and I will try and have a word with Phil and see whether it's a judgment call that the Echo have made about what they think, or whether he's got some insight. Because 6 players is a lot. Okay, but as you and I were chatting before, to my mind, when I hear the number 6 players, then I don't particularly take any view about buying players for the future, for example. So to me, it's how many starters are we going to recruit.
I suppose part of that 6 you would imagine would be Andre Gomez, would be one trying to secure him. And maybe Kurt Zouma. Obviously, we don't know Chelsea's situation. So it might actually be 4 new players.
So exactly right. But if I just set the scene personally, 2 or 3 starters. is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So the 6 might be fringe play or squad play, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So what are the obstructions around that? Well, we make a lovely do a little desk exercise and say, we do not want Nias.
Yeah.
Maybe just put someone alongside it. We do not want Lookman.
Yeah.
For example. Then you've got to find someone to take him. Yeah, that's the issue.
That's the issue.
Now, if it's a Lookman, it's a lot easier than if it's a Nias. Yeah. But what happens if it's a Kieran Dowell? Well, that depends on external influences. Do Sheffield United get promoted? What about Mason Holgate? Would West Brom want him if they got and so on?
Yeah.
So you've got things outside your control, but the plan, let's call that the programme, I suppose. Whatever phrasing you want to use. The plan has to be: which players do we want to keep? Which players do we want to ship out? And which types of players do we want to bring in? That's where I was going with. That's the first level. Which positions or which, do we need to fill? And then you end up with lists, I suppose, don't you?
Yeah.
So then your obstructions become, will the clubs sell the players we want to buy? Will they sell them to us for the amount of money we're able to pay?
Yeah.
Does the player want to come? Will he come for the amount of money we're prepared to pay him? So there's like 4 variables there. Just bringing a player in, and in some respects that's counted on the other side of the balance sheet, if you will, of players we want to get rid of. Will they go? Yeah. Do others want to buy them? Will others pay money for them? And will the player go for the salary that other club is prepared to pay? And then you get sub decisions to make. Well, if we want to move Nias on, say some miracle happens and Cardiff stay up and they think, we'll have Nias, please. Then they may say, well, yeah, we want him, but we don't want to pay him 65 grand a week. So then Everton have to make a decision, well, we'll subsidise some of that if you take us up our hand, and so on. And all this becomes part of a financial model, doesn't it?
I suppose really that was where I was going with it, the financial side of it. Obviously, you're absolutely right. All of those variables will come into it. Can we move him on? Theo Walcott, they want him, they don't want to pay that wages. What do we say to him if we want him off the wage?
And it's also why, cut you out a bit, but it's also why it's really naive for fans in general, and maybe the Twitter echo chambers worst of the worst, to think, why do we always leave it to the last day? They've probably been planning this. I mean, every single time Marcel Brands meets Marco Silva, they must talk about pretty much the same things, mustn't they? Which were what happened on Saturday. And if that talks about lack of quality in the squad in a certain position or whatever, is what are we going to do about it? Marcel Brands isn't going to talk, is he, to how many players going out? 20. And if 6 are coming in, that's 26 transactions. Well, he can't do 26 transactions in parallel.
No.
You can't do them in serial because there isn't enough time.
No.
So it's almost like, well, which deals is he going to do?
Yeah.
That's the point. Actually, we talked about this before. Prioritising. So when you say to the manager, because they're always going to say, I want 2 world-class players in every position.
You're always going to say that.
And then it's affordability. But, well, if you can only have one of these 3 positions fulfilled, which one is it? And if you can only have one of these 3 players, which one is it? And are you really saying, if I can't have any of those 3, I don't want anyone at all? And that's where it really gets interesting, because, of course, when you're shipping players out, someone might say, and we can use Nias because then it becomes non-emotive, because I think most fans would accept he's never going to play for us again.
No.
A club may say, we want Nias, but we can only get him if we get rid of this other guy. Or we generate some money.
Like you're buying a house in
a
chain.
Well, that's the chain, isn't it? It becomes a domino thing. And sometimes that domino works for you. On the last day, you get somebody, Kurt Zuma, say, or whatever. Or back in the day, people like Lukaku and what have you. And sometimes it goes against you and you find a bloke left on your books who you don't want. So the obstruction is the process. And the only thing you can say with some degree of confidence is Man United will suffer more than we will. Because theirs is a more expensive game to play. But if they've done planning and they can really... Sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit now. Because I used to do scuba diving and stuff, there's an analogy here.
Go on.
We'd stand on a beach and we'd decide what we're going to do when we go in the sea. Okay. And typically, the example would be if you're going on a wreck or something. And you stand on the beach, having a burger, having a beer, whatever, and you say, right, when we get in the boat...
Not supposed to drink before swimming, but go on.
diving, you're not, but doesn't stop you doing it. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, and then we go, right, we're going to go on the rep, we're going to go in this particular room, and then we're going to come out, and then that's it.
Back.
Okay, and that's planning. And then when you get in there, someone sees something, they go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a good idea when we were on the beach.
So why
is it a good idea when we're in the water? So if you can do your plan, then execute the plan. That's the key.
Yeah.
And we talk about this in game management, don't we, as well? But being really objective about it, hence why I make the point. If the manager has sat down with the director of football and they have said, we want to have a player in this position added to the squad, but we want one of these three, and if none of them are available, you don't get anybody.
Yeah.
Look me in the eye and say, on the last day, we don't knee jerk into buying somebody, and that sometimes happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so the reason for the analogy, it would be, in scuba terms, plan the dive the plan. And I think, so the obstruction could be all those interactions, and don't forget there's intermediaries in the way as well, messing about. But all those interactions, and then your mental commitment to stick to the plan that you've come up with. And being Dutch, pragmatic, I'm pretty damn sure, without ever met the guy, that Brands will have a plan, and he'll execute it. And every time we hear Silver talking, it's interesting because it tends to come across as negative, doesn't it? But I think he's actually just in his own way trying to demonstrate they're joined up. It's nothing to do with me. It's out my hands. I want to keep Ghana gay, but it's not my call. Well, actually, it must be.
Well, Brands have said there is, because they both agree.
They have to, but that might be, an element of, I can let him go as long as you get one of these three for me. Then it's bold. Does the director of football, who's slightly different, of course, say, yes, but Marco, you're prepared to let Ghana go, and I'll get the best money I can for him. And you want one of these three to replace him. Let's say Gomez as well. You want one of these three to replace him, but you also want a striker, and you also want a right back, and you also and he might help fund some of those. So then that's where you get into priorities, and you inevitably get to the plate spinning exercise that says, actually, you can't have all you want, so you have to make some priority calls. Do you want the money that this player might bring in, but you lose him out your squad, and you may not get a player quite as good, but in the round, it's about a team game.
It's about the team,
and the team will be hopefully greater than the sum of its parts, won't it? And that's when you get into me saying, well, get rid of Luckman. If somebody does want to pay, as Leipzig claim they did, 20-25 million quid for him, then do your sell-on clauses and stuff, and let him go. But they've got to go on loan now that they want to buy, haven't they? So maybe that's just the way they play the game. We've seen him perform. We can buy him hopefully on the cheap, and then sell him at a later date, and that's what they do, isn't it? So that'd be the biggest obstruction, being able to plan the dive
and reduce the wage bill.
Obviously. Well, a natural consequence of the mistakes we've made in the past is if they're successful in moving on these players that we shouldn't, some of whom perhaps we shouldn't have got in the first place. And some of those are quite recent, aren't they? Because I would imagine, certainly on my list of players perhaps to move on would be your Walcotts and your Tosens. Then you get into Schneiderlins and those, McCarthy, and clearly Balassi. And has he still got life in his contract? He must have. Or has he has he got 2 years left?
2 years. Yeah. Morales.
Thanks, Bill.
What about Vlasic?
I think it's an interesting one, because if you do the attitude thing over Luckman, and there are people who prefer to pay what we would want to, then perhaps you just swap them out. You bring Vlasic back and say, well, Luckman had a go, prove you can do better. And obviously, if they've got Kuru as well, he'll get a permit, won't he?
He's going to the AFCON show with Nigeria, it looks like, and he's done quite
well. And then those other leagues, he's
done well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a question for you now, because I know you're asking me questions, but if he was a player of that age, doing what he's done, was it Anderlecht he was at?
Anderlecht. He's done at Eupen, with 24 goals for them.
Anderlecht and Galatasaray. And we saw there's this 19-year-old guy who's done that.
He's 21, but yeah.
Is he 21?
21?
Okay.
But yeah, no.
How much would we pay for him?
Yeah, you'd 20 million maybe? 15, 20 million, wouldn't you?
Yeah, in this league now, that sort of potential might cost you 20 million. How much would you get for Luckman?
25 probably.
So they're the sort of
that's. I mean,
the man with the big spreadsheet.
Might look at that.
It keeps changing things.
Well, I look at it
and then
and think,
financial fair play kicks in, and you start looking about how you're making life easier. And that's, I think you talk about obstructions there. Maybe legislation's one of those, because we know the challenges our football club faces is not going to be resolved in 1 or 2 transfer windows.
No.
It's clear from the director of football's pronouncements in the past, he doesn't class January as a window.
No, you said that.
So the 2 or 3 windows means some are 18, some are 19, some are 20, by which time we'll have financial fair play problems. So he's also got to be pragmatic about what's the payback period going to be for some of the investments we're going to make, and should we not make them because next summer we might be in a better place.
Yeah, I think that was, to be honest, I think that.
And then if you get Europa League, of course, that changes
more where I was coming from. Is what is it? What we, us as fans, will look at it and go, oh yeah, well, we get rid of him, we can get him and all. But the reality of that is, it is like that, and it's not necessarily. I think the phrase was used, we've got to sell to buy, but it's not actually sell to buy.
No,
it's not like we've skint like in the past, we haven't got a penny, and unless we sell him, we haven't got a penny. It's more like, we can't justify buying you because your wages, we can't afford your wages. And I suppose if we can move on, Nias and Tosin and Walcott, and then what the way I look at Walcott is, I think he proved on Sunday what he can do with that pace. However, if you could move him on at $100,000 a week or whatever he's on, and you can bring on Yakuru in, who's our player anyway, who's a wide player, then you go like for like. But you're getting a kid who's 9 years younger on a considerable amount less money than what Walcott's on, and is fresh into this league. Then you've replaced a like for like in your squad, and saved yourself a ton of money in the process. And that's really what it's about. You always use something when we have a chat with, being smarter with stuff, smarter deals and stuff like that. And that's probably a way of doing it, isn't it? Like you say.
Well, it is, and I may have said this before, I don't know. I've certainly said it on the podcast, because I make the joke about the man with the big spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But I mean, apparently our spreadsheet's really good. And it's far superior to some clubs quite close to us. But fundamentally, that big spreadsheet's a modelling tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
What if? And I don't know how much, the man who spreadsheet jockey who drives the spreadsheet, it's a bit like Moneyball and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how much he sits down literally with a Marcel Brands, and probably not Silver, but so well, what happens if we get in for that much, what does that mean? We get in for that much, what does that mean? And you should be updating this all the time. And so as soon as we do the first transaction, it'll all ripple and change, and so on. And as we were talking before, it's fundamentally about, and I don't know how many parallel deals we can do, and perhaps this is part of it. If brands, and whether people like it or not, Bill will be right at the forefront of that. If they can do the marquee type, the bigger deals, somebody's got to do the volume deals.
Of course,
So brands and Bill Kenwright, those sorts of people will focus on those 2 or 3 starters that we would like to get. If 2 of those are Zuma and Gomez, they must be easier to do than some guy who doesn't even know they're interested yet. But somebody's got to do the volume deals as well. The transactional stuff, the stuff that is just about process. And whether that's Dave Harrison or
I should imagine it'll be Dave Harrison
doing that with a consultant informed to the director of football.
Of course,
but you can say, deal with the intermediary, he can go for X, and if we get X, bang, gone, sort of thing. And then you update the spreadsheet, and all of a sudden Brand says, oh, you got another X million to spend. Because the trick's got to be, he's got to go for more than X, and the more than X it is, the better. And then on the other side of the coin is we want to get that guy for less than Y, and so on, and both things become...
I mean, just very, very basic level is
stuff,
if Everton can move 15 players, which is a hell of a lot, a ridiculous number. Say it's 10, which is it's still
makes the sums easy.
It's still a lot, but it makes the sums easy. If Everton can move 10 players out and bring 5 in, then it's better, isn't it? Surely it's better all round. If you're, and especially if you say David Neres, he's been linked again today, and there's a lot of talk of this kid, the kid from Ajax. So say Everton sold Theo Walcott, sold Adam Olaluchman, and brought David Neres in and Henry Onyekuru. But they're both coming in for less than what those 2 are on.
Well,
well, you might have to pay. You will have to pay Neres probably more buying him, not contract wise. Contract will be less, but transfer fee. But then again, you're also moving out, and you're asking moving out, blah, blah, blah. So straight away, you're creating that bit more. Your belt comes a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
Looser.
And when people try and visualise this, as we're doing now, hopefully you're seeing it. Is it's complicated in the sense that there's lots of things going on which can impact it. Plate spinning is a good thing.
Yeah,
some of the plates will fall off and break. And that'll be a play we get stuck with who we wanted to get rid of, or a play we didn't get. Okay, but just use that hook for a moment to financial fair play, and we don't want to compromise that because of course we're going to be in Europe every year, therefore we don't want to be barred, and it will be an Everton they pick on rather than a Man City, albeit I think Man City will get done, by the way, but hey ho. It's about total cost of ownership. It's the wages and the transfer fee. So you use your example of bringing some Dutch guy in or whatever nationality he is,
Brazilian, but he plays
Brazilian, whatever, and you make the sums easy and say 50 million. And he's Brazilian.
There you go.
So 50 million, 5-year contract. That's 10 million a year. And then whatever you pay him. So let's say you pay him 100 grand a week. I don't know, just make it up. No, just make it up.
Okay.
So that's another 5 million a year. So it costs you 15 million pounds a year. So you've got to take off the books 15 million pounds a year. So as you say, if a Walcott is earning 100 grand a week, then 5 of that comes by him going. But you've still got 10 to find. So it's total cost of ownership that counts. And of course, whilst it's not rocket science, that Brands has been trying to educate, say, the largest shareholder about how these calculations play out. That yes, you may pay quite high transfer fees, but you will pay quite high transfer fees for players who you hope will have resale value because of their age, and actually because of where you're getting them in their stage of development, you get them for a lower wage. And actually, if you do this to extremists, as say PSG do with Neymar's and what have you, you might actually buy a guy like this for 50 million quid, knowing full well in 3 years' time he ain't going to be here. No. Because you just sold him for 100. That's and that's where Richarlison might be in that. But if that can become a regular thing, a recycle. But isn't that... That's what the Shower have done across the way, isn't it?
But isn't it realistically though, John? People will see that as a negative.
No, it's positive.
But isn't that really how a football club is supposed to exist?
It's been smarter.
But isn't it, I mean, at the basic core of everything, your football club, you want, and I know it's not always easy, but 2 things for me: you want to be self-sufficient, and you want it to be...
Which we're not.
No, and you want it to be sustainable. Listen, I love having Usmanov in the background. Whoever it is in the background. But realistically, I hope that Everton... Farhad Moshiri, sorry, in the background, they're doing whatever he's doing and being able to go, I'm going to ease, make the burden a bit easier here because you need an influx of money at the moment. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I want us to get better and better. But if we can buy 3 young players or younger players, develop all 3, and we sell one of them every 3 years and we keep replacing, I've got no issue with that because it's coming back in
we shouldn't.
And we go again. Isn't that how you survive?
Yeah, that's right. So you do more than survive with that sort of model.
You
and you do this. I know we've done this to death on the podcast about net spend and the like, but the very simplistic, I could say it again, the very simplistic example is people get hung up about this net spend thing, don't they? And that then leads to sell to buy and all that. If you bring in Sanchez, Man United. Impact on net spend, nothing. Didn't pay anything for him. That's apparently bad. The net spend would be 0. That's bad. Clearly it's good. But you're paying him £400,000 a week. But your total cost of ownership for him is £400,000 a week. That's all he costs you. I say all. That's all he costs you. Some big fat bloke who plays for United as well. He's perhaps only on 200 grand a week.
250, isn't he? But okay,
250.
So $1 million a month,
So so Lukaku's costing him 250 a week. But it costs him £75 million. How much is that divided by the length of his contract? If his contract's 5 years...
Well, it's 15 million a year to start, plus his wages, that's 12.
Well, that's what I mean. If it's 5-year contract, that's £15 million a year.
And 20, so it's 27 million a year.
He's costing them twice as much as Sanchez is. But apparently one of them's good because you spent a lot of money on a transfer fee, and the other one's rubbish because you haven't got much net spend with that one. But even pros don't get that. You get that idiot Sutton. When your Rashfords pop up and say, I want lots of money because I've got a year left on my contract, and you start quoting Sanchez as being the excuse as to why you should pay these guys lots of money because he's not even getting a game and he's earning twice as much as these other people. It's about the total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
And that's when you get into, actually, and you talk about obstructions, it's about making decisions, because if we get a player close to end of contract, let's just talk about a different club, Rashford for a second.
Yeah.
If he's close to end of contract, what his agent should be saying and doing, or his intermediary, because don't have agents anymore, is saying, well, you can ask for this, because if you go for free, like Sanchez did, next year, you will take some of the money at the club you go to saved by not
buying it,
not having a transfer fee, will come to you. And United will have to go and buy a replacement, probably around the cost of what you could have gone for, 50 million, and pay the wage bill. And that's the conundrum that clubs have to play with, which is, as players
I suppose we've kind of done that with Bernard, haven't we? We've had no transfer fee for him, paying good wages, and it works out.
I bet you got a substantial signing on.
Oh, of course, but they do,
which will come out over the
period of
his contract, which people then get hung up about by saying, bloody hell, 150 grand a week for him if he's not performing. He is, but you end up with player, and you say, no, it's all about the total cost. It's all about the total cost. And then, so when people then start to say we can't buy players with no money, well, it depends. Life's all about this type of life, the man with the big spreadsheet. They're all assumptions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because the assumption's saying we're going to sell him for that, we're going to buy him for that, and it all spits out as a number. Yeah. And how you perform against the assumptions determines whether you can actually do what you'd like to do. So, and that's why it's complicated and takes time and all that rubbish. But let's see what happens, and that's all you can do. People don't get hung up about it. Up until the last day, don't get hung up about it. Get hung up about it. When's the window close? End of August, is it?
It's August. For us, to buy, it was August the 9th, I think, or the 10th, just before the first game of the season.
So let's say it's the 10th. Worry on the 11th.
No, it's actually the 8th, because the first game's the 10th. Yeah.
The day after it's closed.
Yeah, worry on the 9th, that's what.
Worry the day after, because that's the squad was stuck with until January. Yeah.
There you go. That's John's thought on that. You can check John out on Everton Business Matters podcast. It's really good, all about the business side of stuff.